Psalm 91. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God, in Him I will trust. Surely He shall deliver you from the snare of the fowler and from the perilous pestilence. He shall cover you with His feathers, and under His wings you shall take refuge. His truth shall be your shield and buckler. You shall not be afraid of the terror by night, nor of the arrow that flies by day, nor of the pestilence that walks in darkness, nor of the destruction that lays waste at noonday. 1,000 may fall at your side, and 10,000 at your right hand, but it shall not come near you. Only with your eyes shall you look and see the reward of the wicked. Because you have made the Lord, who is my refuge, even the Most High, your dwelling place. No evil shall befall you, nor shall any plague come near you, your dwelling. For He shall give His angels charge over you, to keep you in all your ways. In their hands they shall bear you up, lest you dash your foot against a stone. You shall tread upon the lion and the cobra, the young lion and the serpent you shall trample underfoot. Because He has set His love upon me, therefore I will deliver him. I will set him on high, because he has known my name. He shall call upon me, and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him and honor him. With long life I will satisfy him and show him my salvation.
Times are changing.
Silicon Valley Bank, they can talk about poor management. I know a lot has been said about that.
So all the stuff that they called us crazy about years ago is now all of it's coming true.
He said that there's instability everywhere. It's panning out today, certainly in the banking sector. For how long is anyone's guess?
I'm gonna probably pick up some more too, because I know it's happening and I feel it happening.
The reason I call it God's money is you can't fake it. You know, you can fake it with a fake ETF, like a gold ETF or a silver, which I don't touch because it smells as bad as the guys that printed that crap.
It's going to be crazy what's coming, and those that are prepared are just really going to be celebrating like they've never celebrated before.
Beverly Hills Precious Metals Exchange is a client-focused firm devoted to assisting our clients with precious metals. Our clients range from first-time to serious coin collectors and investors seeking to add precious metals to their investment portfolios. We are not interested in volatile investments, leveraged products, and intangible assets. With rising inflation and the devaluing of the dollar hurting middle-class families, investing in gold and silver ensures protection for your hard-earned money. Save the value of your money today by investing in gold and silver at Beverly Hills Precious Metals.
We are here to defend democracy for the people.
What's up, everybody? Come check out the His Glory Tent Revival Tour in Corryville, Pennsylvania on June 24th, 2023 from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. I'll see you there.
They think with a Satanist. We all know this is the end. God is coming for revenge.
And we want to welcome all of His Glory Nation from east to west to north to south. Welcome to today's Take 5. Happy Monday, June the 19th. And I am in Ohio. It feels good to be back in my original chair in Ohio. The weather here is absolutely gorgeous, coming out of a storm in Texas that was biblical. So we're back here in Ohio, and we're going to be going to our tent revival. So join us in the tent revival. That's coming up next Saturday, June the 24th. Great event. You're going to see Dr. Sherwood there, Timothy Dixon there, Bo Polny, who's on with us today there. Jimmy Levy will be there as well, bringing the music. We're going to have plenty of music, praise, and worship. So join us in Corryville, Pennsylvania. It's the next stop on the Tent Revival Tour, so we look forward to that. Israel. Check out Israel. I heard Bo coming on. I'm still trying to get my bearings back. Things run different in Texas than they do in Ohio, and I'm not sure if people can hear me, and now I'm getting it back. It's coming back to me. It's like riding a bike. All right, so His Glory Tour of Israel. There it is. VIP Tour of Israel. That's November 30th to December 8th. General Flynn will be with us on that VIP tour. You're going to see some Israeli generals there. We hope to have a meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu. So join up that VIP trip to Israel. Then we have the winter tour. We put this tour together to make it more economical for everybody to get to Israel, because once you get to Israel, everything changes. The Bible comes alive for you, and there's no other place like Israel. You saw General Avivi on with us last week, breaking news about the Afghanistan, the equipment from Afghanistan taken and used against Israeli troops in Samaria. Just absolutely insane that's happening in America. All right, now it's time for Bo Polny and Andrew Sorchini. Bo, welcome back. A lot going on in the world.
Thank you. God bless.
And here's Andrew. Andrew. Hi, Andrew.
Hi there. I'm having a Monday, you guys. Thanks for bearing with me. Oh my gosh, it's one of those Mondays following a difficult week. So
yeah, it's the intensity is off the charts last week and going into this week, and incredible biblical times we live in. Bo, we're really close to some major events happening in the public. We know it's happening in the private. That's why I had a small window. I think I told you privately when I was in Texas to get back to Ohio, and I'm back.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like all of our podcasts that we've done for the past few months now, when you look at the timelines, the biblical, again, we're living in biblical times, which means that things that are happening are biblical, but they're also going to be on biblical timelines. And it's important to grasp that concept. God does things in His times and in His seasons. Things don't happen randomly in the world. Our world is not random. It's by His design. And so we're, February, March, we've been talking on our interviews how such an important time we're racing into the end of June, And so now we're the 19th today of June, and there's 2 weeks left into the end of June, maybe a little bit less, whatever. Yeah, so about just under 2 weeks left into the end of June. And you have to look at what's going on in the world. And, you check out some of the Twitter feeds, and you check out some of the news that you're hearing, Pastor Dave. You see, we're racing into this important biblical time point, so no one knows what's going to happen. So, I don't know. I don't know how God's going to strike. Is He going to strike at the end of this month? Is it going to be the beginning of July? All I know is something's going to happen in this year. This is going to be a biblical year where, and what does it mean? It means this year is the year the tables flip. No different than when Jesus Christ walked into the temple and flipped the tables on the money changers. No different than when the writing on the wall occurred, mene, mene, tekel, upharsin. You have been weighed in the balances and found wanting. Your kingdom has come to an end. And when I say your kingdom, it means their kingdom, this evil regime is about to get what's written in the Bible in Revelation called the mortal wound. So they're about to be struck by the hand of God. And, again, Daniel 2, verse 34. And while you were watching, so we're going to watch this go down, a stone carved out by, here it is, no human hand. So something's going to go down here really imminently. And all I know is that, evil is not going to continue. I know this in my heart. You know this as well too, Pastor Dave. That evil is not going to continue on this railroad track that they're on, because if they continue on this railroad track, right, Nazi Germany would be, the concentration camps would be next. Okay, it didn't take long from when Hitler came to power to the concentration camps. Okay, so God is a God of He's love, and He's judge, and He loves His creation, including with these evil people. They just chose evil, right? And so at some point, God is going to judge, and He's going to strike evil, give it a mortal wound.
Yeah, it's upon us. Last week, Andrew said it was a tough week. Me personally, it was a tough week too. There's intensity. Satan knows what God is about to move, and he's throwing everything he can at us to keep us off looking and keeping our eyes and more importantly, our heart on Him.
Well, and just before Andrew chimes in, I want to add one thing, like what you just said, right? Look at when they indicted Trump on that exact same day. That's when all these audio recordings of Biden came out on the exact same day. So it was precision attack on on Trump, because there were all those like 17 audio recordings of Biden basically committing treason. So continue.
Yep. Good time to bring you in, Andrew. Before we bring in Andrew again, I just heard today on the 21st, that's the date that you've been talking about, Bo, June 21st on Wednesday, Durham will be in front of Congress. It's going to be explosive on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Well, this certainly feels like the calm before the storm. It's people should point out that there's 18 months of election time left. Actually, probably about 18 months left. And we're going to see a lot of dirty games out there. We're going to see a lot of manipulation of everything from news stories to the financial markets. Right now, we're seeing a very false rally in the tech stocks, which are having one of the biggest bull runs that we've seen in such a short span of time. And that's all designed so that Biden can look like the hero and possibly get into office again. And but we know, because we're out there spreading the truth to people. And I just if you never got out of the stock market after all the times we've talked about it for the last 2 years, then kudos to you. You got lucky. Now is time to sell and regroup and try to protect what you have.
Yeah, you look at the Walton family, the founders of Walmart, sold over $400 million worth of stock last week.
Well, let me add this, okay? So what do? I study times, seasons, and I study patterns, okay? What God revealed to me specifically was when I was in Vienna. I know I'm sure you've heard this story, but when I was in Vienna that evening, I go to a coat check at a ball, and I received the number 124. I'm like, wow, this is crazy. So then that night I received a dream, and that dream basically God showed me clearly on the stock market. It's a pattern that happens on the stock markets, and ever since that dream about like 5 years ago, or that event 5 years ago, and dream, I've been able to, the pattern, it's not me. God showed me how to calculate the time of the markets, okay? And so that pattern has predicted every single stock crash in the past, I think, 4 years. Every single crash that's happened so far, including to the month. It happens to the exact month. And so that crash we had in 2020, okay, that was predicted, and it happened. So the reason the stocks are unimportant to me, because the next crash that the cycle is predicting potentially is going to be at the end of this year, not now, okay? And so the stock markets are irrelevant anyways. This is so important, okay? How did they build the control mechanisms of the world? Not on the stock market, people, okay? They didn't build the control mechanisms using the stock market. The stock market is just that, that happy feel-good kind of thing. Yeah, don't worry about it, you got money, right? They built the control mechanisms using the dollar. Okay, using fiat money. What is fiat by definition? It means it has no attachment in any way, shape, or form to God's money, gold, or silver. So why is Andrew here? Why? Because what do we say? When God flips the tables, Haggai 2, verse 8, the silver and the gold are mine, saith the Lord. When God flips those tables, he's going to flip them, guess what? In his favor. So I don't want to tell you to buy gold or silver. All I know is that I'm doing it. All I know is that paper digits in the bank are a joke, because they create the stuff out of thin air and they've used it to enslave humanity. That's what's been going on. They've used these digits. And so it's not about the stock market. The stock market can go to 100,000 on the Dow. Who cares? Because when that event happens, and it's going to possibly happen because they're going to create money. The only thing they can ever do is create money. Yep. They can click buttons and create money out of thin air. It's so important to understand. But if the dollar is no longer the world reserve currency, even if the Dow's at 100,000, you're selling it. You have to sell it into a dollar that has no value, because it's no longer the world reserve currency. So it doesn't matter what the stock market's worth. If that dollar loses its status as the world reserve currency, all bonds, all stocks, all car values, all home values immediately take a run. I think it's going to happen about 30%, and will immediately take a 30% haircut overnight. So you're going to go to bed and you're going to wake up with everything you possibly own worth 1/3 less minimum, And then that's going to start the collapse of the bonds, which then is going to blow up the entire financial system, and specifically the bond market, which is the real estate market. So you're going to see a massive collapse into next summer of the real estate market. And so all of this is blowing up because, boy, the tables flipped. God intervened. God intervened. He didn't, it's not about the stock market, it's about the dollar. When that dollar loses its status as a world reserve currency, everything you know will suddenly change, and the world will no longer accept the dollar as payment. So if you want to own a BMW, you want to own a Mercedes, you want to own a Japanese car, okay, you're not going to be able to buy that with the dollar because they will not accept it as payment. But you know what they're going to accept as payment? Gold and silver.
Yep.
Okay, even cryptocurrencies, but they're going to accept gold and silver as payment because the silver and the gold are mine, saith the Lord. Mark my words, everything you know to be true about the financial system that we grew up with is about to flip, because God is going to intervene. Because when the financial tables flip, they've built up the system on a fake monetary system, and they use the money to do what, Pastor Dave? Hide the deals done in the dark.
Yep.
Okay, so we're racing into what? June 21, the summer solstice, okay? As we coming into this, look at the tension that's building. Look at the tension building, because the truths are about to come out. And so something's about to go down into the end of June. It's called birth of a new era. I don't know personally if it's going to happen on the 21st, 22nd, because it's a calculated time point, which is nothing different than a doctor giving a woman, this is your expected delivery date, which my calculation is June 25. But the delivery can happen 2 weeks early. It can happen 2 weeks later. All I'm telling you is that July is going to be mind-blowing. And for those that prepared, you're going to be celebrating because you've listened to us speak. You might have contacted Andrew, but you've listened to Andrew, and you've actually invested in precious metals. And when God flips those tables, mark my words, you are going to be seeing something you've never could ever dreamed of financially is about to happen.
We've been talking about this for over a year and a half. And, a year and a half ago, you could go back and say, these guys are on some kind of conspiracy kick. The dollar being replaced throughout the world, that'll never happen. Welcome to the day. How many countries now are off the dollar? Is it 90 some?
It's a lot. It's over the weekend, Clay Clark sent me a video that had a montage of different countries talking about going off of, de-dollarizing. And the one that struck me the most was the president of Kenya with his people behind him. He's urging the Kenyans to stop using the dollar, that is no longer going to be accepted in Kenya, and to use the local currency. And when he's saying this, the people behind him were like pretty much disrespecting the United States, like saying, yeah, it's about time. And they're so proud of what they're doing. And realistically, we've had it good for a really long time to have our currency be the world's reserve currency, but there's really not much reason to give that up without a fight. But while all this is happening in the background, for us, what we can do is protect what we've worked so hard our entire lives for and invest in gold and silver. You can give us a call. There's a lot of other gold companies out there, but we have dealt with Bo and with Pastor Dave personally, and they can vouch for the service that we provide, along with thousands of other people, like literally thousands.
Yeah, I actually have to say this. I've been buying metals for like years already, okay? When I started buying from you, Andrew, this is like the funny, because I buy all over like the United States, and I always search for the best prices because I know how the game works, right? So I'm really good at who I use. So when I started buying from you, I gotta give you kudos, okay? I literally put an order in with you on Friday, and the stuff's delivered like on Tuesday. It's crazy. I put the order Friday, I send the wire Friday, and then the stuff's arrives on like Tuesday or Wednesday. Like I've never seen it that fast. So Andrew, you rock in terms of getting deliveries, because that's what it's all about. That's what it's about, is delivery.
Yeah,
receiving it.
And I want to touch on that as well, because not everybody, but a lot of people sell silver and gold. When this event happens, it's not if this is going to happen, when it's happening. And you don't see signs of it right now. You obviously haven't been watching us and watching what's going on in the world. It is ready to pop. As Bo says, we don't know the day or the hour, but it is going. When this event happens, you're going to get every shady person under the sun trying to sell you silver and gold. So you have to be very protective and pray before you make that decision.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Number one thing, Andrew, I'm sorry, just chime in. Number one thing that happens when metals take off, silver and gold plated. Continue.
Oh, yeah. Well, you're going to want to have the relationship with somebody that is in the precious metals industry, and not just this. If you don't have a generator, you're going to want to have a relationship with somebody that could provide you with one, because if there's 1,000 people looking for something and there's only 100 there, then in stock, then that means that they're going to have to pick and choose. So the key word for me is I'm a member of the His Glory family, or I listen to Polny. When I hear that, then I just I try to give you the special attention. All of the clients and all of the potential clients that we have are important to us, but these are the people that are at the top of the heap, and you'll want to have the relationship with us. If you're going on some of the discount brokers that you might see online, those are good too, and many of them will deliver the product. But if you call them and say, what do you think about, is gold better than silver right now, or why would I want to have silver more than gold? And they'll just say, sir, just let me know exactly what you want, and if you don't know, then let me get to the next person and give me a call back. They don't provide that kind of service, so you'll want the concierge type special treatment service that we can provide.
Yeah, because a lot of them are on commission, and they're going to sell you whatever they have in stock or whatever they tell you to sell, instead of what the best value is.
Yeah, we've talked about this before in prior interviews. This is so important. Okay, I've sometimes read some of the comments in my in when people post and when we post the videos, and it's like, hey, I put an order in 6 months ago. I'm still waiting for delivery. See, this is what you have to understand, right? When you put an order in and you send the payment for it, when they receive it, they're obligated to ship it to you immediately or extremely soon. Okay, if you're waiting a month, 2 weeks, 6 weeks, or if you're waiting several months, okay, they're basically, they sold you something they didn't have in inventory, hoping that they would get it. But now they've got your money and you got nada, you got nothing, and you're just hoping that it's going to arrive on time, or it's going to actually just arrive. So be very cautious, whoever you use. I'm just telling you, you need to do your homework, because if once you send that money and you're not 100% sure that product's going to arrive soon, it's not, you're not going to be feeling real good for that until that stuff arrives. You're not going to be feeling good.
Bo's absolutely right. You don't typically want to wait more than a couple of weeks for your order.
Let's touch on silver versus gold.
Okay.
It's always a great topic, because I know everybody wants to talk about that. It's like, hey, like you brought it up, Andrew. You call the dealer up, should I buy gold? Should I buy silver? What do I buy? So I don't want to give advice. I'm just looking at the mathematics of it, okay? So in the world that we live in, roughly, and no one knows a real number, but when the mining companies go and they dig within the mine, and they're pulling out precious metals, they're pulling out gold and silver, they come out together out of the ground. Typically, when you find gold, you're going to find silver there as well, too. When they mine it, on average, you usually, for every ounce of gold you get, you'll usually get somewhere in the vicinity of 10 ounces of silver. Some people say 14, so whatever. It doesn't matter. What the point I'm making is, right now, if you sold an ounce of gold, say to Andrew, and you wanted to flip it into silver, Andrew would sell you, it depends on the spreads, but somewhere between 70 to 80 ounces of silver. What that means is they have manipulated the price of silver almost 10 times greater than it's in ground. Just grasp the magnitude of that. So they hate silver so much that they've manipulated the price of gold, and they're holding it. So typically with these derivative contracts, for every ounce of gold that's sold on the COMEX, there's usually 500 people that own it. So in other words, that's what they can do. They create this stuff out of thin air. It's all paper contracts, okay? But then what makes it worse is they've manipulated silver 10 times more than that. And so the in-ground ratio, let's say it's 10 to 1, which is somewhere in that vicinity. Right now, the ratio is 70 or 80 to 1. I didn't check recently. The point is, you can get 7 times the amount of silver presently, on average. If you're buying precious metals today, you could potentially get 7 to 8 times more silver for the same value you would place on a gold investment. So it's just people need to make their own choices on what they want to purchase and what they want to own. But I'm trying to illustrate when the bullion banks have manipulated silver to such an extent that it's incredibly cheap. Okay, when the tables flip, at some point you are going to see silver explode, because when gold goes, silver goes. They're both going to go crazy to the upside. But silver, because of the manipulation factor of 70 or 80 to 1 relative to gold, you're going to see the acceleration. So silver, they're a friend of mine from a long time ago, Jim Sinclair, coined it. Silver is gold on steroids.
Yeah. Robert Kiyosaki loves silver too.
Yeah. You might recall that in 2009 or so, we saw silver run from about $7 an ounce to about $10 an ounce. And then as the financial crisis of that time started to heat up, 2011 was kind of like the pinnacle of it, where we saw silver go from about $13, $14 an ounce all the way to $49 an ounce. So that,
and if I can chime in, and at that time, the ratio hit around 30 to 1. You see what happened? So the ratio got to about 30 to 1 when it was initially around 80 to 1. Continue, Andrew, sorry.
Oh, yeah. So silver did jump from like $13 to $49 an ounce, which is about almost 2.5 times or 3.5 times. So with gold had gone from, at that time, it just broke 1,000 and went to about 1,900. So as good as gold might and will do, silver should do multiples of that, and that's to Bo's point, where it's silver is gold on steroids for sure.
Amen. Yeah. Also, if your staff could be so kind, Pastor Dave, and click on page 68. This is a visual representation of why you might want to own some precious metals. On page 68, what it's showing you is a distribution of basically money, okay? So when you look at this slide, what you want to look at is, you see, the entire financial system we know is balanced on gold and silver, period, okay? When Nixon took us off the gold standard 50 years ago, they started creating money out of thin air. It took 100 years to make the first trillion. Now they use the word quadrillion. I want to explain to you the insanity of those numbers, okay? A trillion is 1,000 billion. Think about this. 1,000 billion is a trillion. And they throw these numbers around like, what if there wasn't some, they're talking about something a couple weeks ago about, some debt ceiling. They're talking about trillions, which is 1,000 billion. And now we're into quadrillions, which is 1,000 trillion. The money system is a fraud. They click buttons and they create it out of thin air. At some point, I'm telling you it's going to be soon, okay? But whatever, let's say it happens in the future. If you don't grasp the magnitude of this chart, at some point, when God intervenes and flips the tables on this financial system, it's going to blow them. It's going to be soon, okay? But let's say it happens in the future. It doesn't matter. At some point, when this system blows up, it all is going to revert back to what it initially came from, gold and silver. The paper is going to blow up, and it's all going to come back to precious metals as being the only unit of exchange in the future. And then we're just going to go back to what they did, initially, whereas you'd take a piece of gold to the bank and they would give you paper for it, but those were called treasury notes, and they were literally backed by gold. Okay, right now there's no backing to them. So we are going to go back to the gold standard. This is not my guess. This is a prophetic word of several prophets, including, I believe, Julie Green actually even stated that as well too. Or if not, I know at least 2 other prophets have stated that. And so we at some point will return to the gold standard, and those that were wise stewards and prepared financially, because the Bible talks about 10 virgins. 5 prepared, 5 did nothing, right? And the 5 that did nothing, God said, what? Depart from me, I don't know you. Why? Because the Bible is about prepare, okay? And we know there's a lot of people that don't have the means to prepare. But the point is, okay, the world, and this is a good point we can go into, the world as we know has turned to idol worship.
Yep.
Okay? No different than what happened in the time of Israel, okay? Pastor Dave, and actually, if your staff can, before we do that, when you were in Israel, did you go to Mount Carmel?
Oh, yeah, every time.
Okay, can you give us a quick little synopsis on the story of what went down for for the viewers at Mount Carmel and the story of Elijah, the prophet Elijah, because I want to touch on this. And so there's a slide that I sent to your staff as well too. But touch on, give us a little, like a few minutes on the story, and you'll see why I'm doing this. But just give us a little story on Mount Carmel and Elijah.
Yeah, so Elijah went to Mount Carmel. That's the area where the Baal prophets and the Asterisk prophetess were there. They wanted to pray to their God of sun and fire, and God of fertility and the earth, which is Asterisk, and then Baal. And Elijah's mocking them. He said, your God's not showing up. Where is he? Where is he? Is he relieving himself? And so Elijah, at the end of that, said, praise to the Lord. They start cutting themselves, and they're not getting any reaction from their false gods. And Elijah puts water around it and calls down the fire, and God brings down the fire and just blows it all up. And Elijah has the strength to go in and take out all the false prophets. And that place today is absolutely amazing place to go to see and experience where Elijah relied on the Most High God to bring down that fire. And when their false gods couldn't, and he was 1 against 800, and God showed up, and he showed up in a big way. And the other thing about Mount Carmel is so beautiful. You see the end day prophecy there too. That is overlooking the valley of Megiddo. You see the Mediterranean Sea. That's where the Israeli Air Force comes and lands. They got an underground base there. So not only do you feel what happened, God intervening with Elijah, but you see future events too, all in the valley of Megiddo.
Yes, I was there this November, and I thought that was just fantastic. I was taking pictures and everything. It was fantastic. What an experience to be there. But this is what I want to, and thank you for doing it, Pastor Dave, because this is a new revelation I received this weekend. I think you're going to find this rather interesting. Because why? We talked about false idols and idol worship, okay? So whether people believe or not, they do worship idols because really what happened in the time of Israel, right? In our time right now, everybody's chasing money. Why? They're going to work every day. They have mortgages, student loans, car loans. They just have debts. Satan's created trillions of dollars, enslaved humanity, and instead of worshiping God, they're worshiping false idols, money, okay? And not even intentionally, but everybody's got a bill to pay, everybody's got a gas meter to pay, everybody's got utility bills and bills coming up to yin yang. That's how the world is structured. Because why? The world is captured. Satan stole our inheritance at the point he was allowed onto the earth via the great sin, Adam and Eve in the garden, okay? And so this is what's happened. Now, if you study scriptures, because what do? That Ecclesiastes, that which has been will be again. Okay, well, think about this. How amazing is this? So the revelation I received. So those who want to verify this, but you read 1 Kings 18, verse 1. Now, would you say that this corona thing's been going on kind of a long time?
Yeah.
3.5 years is kind of a long time, right? Yep. So listen, here's what 1 Kings 18, verse 1 says. After a long time, in the, pay attention, 3rd year, the word of the Lord came to Elijah. This went, what year is this? The 3rd year. This is 2023. We are about to witness, and that was a miracle that happened at Mount Carmel. The fire of God came from the sky, and it crashed on the altar, destroyed it, just ate everything up, burned everything up. And then the prophets of Baal, because who's running all this? You've had a Julie, Amanda, Kent Christmas, Robin Bull. They're all talking about what spirit it's on the earth right now.
The Jezebel spirit.
There you go. This was the spirit, the false worship of Baal that was going on at the time of Elijah. You have to look at the magnitude of that event and understand that we are sitting in this right now. So we're about to see the fire come down. And what is that? Right behind you, his glory. Yeah. We're about to see the fire come down. I know that we're so close. End of June is going to be pivotal into July. The key window is June 20th. The summer solstice, the 21st is important. But the critical number is the 25th of June. There's a 45-day window, and this is biblical in Daniel's timeline. There's a 45-day window, and then that sets us on to August 9th. And then August 9th onward is the new era, and everything these evil people, the Jezebel spirit, they get knocked down, destroyed. You even said Elijah had all the 100, was it 100? I think it was 800 or 450 prophets of Baal. All of them were killed after this event went down. Sure sounds like a mortal wound to me. You see, there's layers of prophecy that happened to Israel are about to manifest here in the United States. And now we're going to see the fulfillment of why we're doing this, all three of us here together. Proverbs 13:22, the wealth of the sinner is stored up. Who's the sinners? The banking institutions, the one that create money out of thin air. The wealth of the sinner is stored up for the righteous, the church. And we're stepping into the greatest wealth transfer the world's ever seen. And I'm just feeling in my heart we are this close, but it is going to happen because the prophets you've had on your show, Pastor Dave, confirm that I'm not making this up. The prophets have stated wealth transfer, have they not?
Yeah, and I know for a fact they don't talk to each other. And I don't talk to them about it. It's just all the prophets are saying the prophetic voices are saying the same thing. Most people don't realize that Elijah, when he did that, it rained afterwards. There was exactly 3.5 years that it didn't rain. Exactly 3.5 years.
And what are we talking about? The fullness of time.
Yep.
It's a time times and a half a time. That's Daniel 12, verse 7. You literally stated, Pastor Dave, Daniel 12, verse 7, when you said 3.5 years. When did Corona start? January of 2020. 3.5 years is the end of June. I'm telling you, this is about to go down. That's why your intel sources are telling you. A lot of people are saying, oh, things might happen here in April or May. And I was saying, yeah, there could be because it's Passover. But the critical window, I've always been saying, is the end calculation. The end calculation, the fullness of time. The Daniel 12, verse 7 was 3.5 years, was specifically the end, the 25th, or basically the end of June. And look at the intel that you're hearing right now. So I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what day it's going to happen. I'm just telling you, between the end of June and into the first week of August, mind-blowing changes are going to be manifesting on this earth.
I don't know what they are either because they don't tell me. They give me hints, but I tell you two things. One, they told me to get back to Ohio on Saturday. I had a short window to get back. And the second thing is one of the military generals that is in charge right now has shut off comms. So when you shut off comms, that means you're going into a live operation of some sort. You can feel it, you can see it, the intensity's off the roof.
Are you still able to get inventory, Andrew? What's it like on your end?
Yeah, actually, with the stock market starting to do a little bit better, it has made gold and silver become available. And this is the time that people really should reach out more than ever because it's available and the premiums are lower. And I almost interrupted myself with saying that this is how it was last October and November. All three of us were on this show together talking about how that was a great time. The price of silver hit as low as $18.50 an ounce, and it was available, which is unbelievable. And it's just shot up since then. Recently, it was $26 an ounce. Today, it's just under $24 an ounce. So the strike price of what you can get it for right now is very cheap in the grand scheme of things, and it's available. So that's how Bo gets the deliveries so quickly.
That's great. Remember, we've talked over and over again. Okay, the low that came in November, October of last year. At that time the cycles pointed to that was a low. It happened. It's gone up. This is a fire sale, people. Whether it's 13, whether it's 17, whether it's 18, whether it's 23, this is a fire sale because it's manipulated 70 times, 80 times more than gold. When this thing goes, we've talked about it on every podcast. Andrew's going to close his doors. He won't know what to sell it for because there's high-speed computers. The price is going to be spiking vertically aggressively, and no dealer is going to know what to sell it for. And then when Andrew calls up his vendors, hey, I need to buy more inventory, they're not going to know what to sell it to Andrew for because the price is changing every few seconds or every few minutes. It's silver jumping dollars. And so the doors are just going to be closed. So those who are sitting on the fence waiting, hey, let's see if Bo, Andrew, and Pastor Dave, are talking nonsense or not. If you're sitting on the fence, you're going to miss it because it's going to happen so quick. It's going to be over in 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It's just going to go and that's it. It's going to be a one-day event And then when the things open back up again, silver will likely be triple digit, or at minimum, it's going to be in the $60 to $80 category before they can even do anything with it. It's just going to jump so aggressive because you have to understand, right? They've created, again, billions into trillions into quadrillions. When this money is going to start looking, it's going to look for solid assets, and it's going to flee. The money's going to run. You're just going to need to cut one, two, several billionaires just literally hit the buy button, and inventory is gone. And this is going to be crazy, and it's going to be biblical what's going to go down here, coupled with bank runs. People are going to be running to the bank and finding out that the bank doesn't have enough cash. This is the scary part for people. When the banks, when you have a line of people running to the bank because something just happened financially, when the people run to the bank to get their cash out, they're going to, after the first 1, 2, 3, 5 people go in there, depending how many people, how much money they pull out. If someone goes in there and pulls out, a good chunk of paper, right? All the bank's empty. There's no more paper in the bank, and you're going to have lines out the door of people trying to get their cash, but there isn't any. Why? It's a very simple answer. You can't make quadrillions of dollars in paper. It's not even possible. You'd have to tear down every single tree on the planet just to get enough paper of how much money they've made. And so that's why they create digital currency, because with digital currency, you can hide that there's not enough paper and there's not enough money in the banks. So this is going to be an interesting moment in time. People are never going to forget what's about to happen. This is going to be crazy.
No, it's truly biblical. Nothing we've seen in our lifetime times 10. It's intense.
So to Bo's point, it just makes me not want to have anything inside the bank. And I'm not just talking about dollars. I'm talking about if you have a safe deposit box and you have like your passport or some jewelry in there, or even some cash or some coins, you have to stand in the same line to access that the people are standing in to enter the bank to pull out their cash. So if they're not able to get in 2 or 3 hours, you don't get to bypass that because you're not looking for cash. So right now would be a good time to get it out of there. It's really, the banks aren't safe. They're not staffing them correctly, and it's not that they don't know how to. They know how to. They're trying to make it like the DMV, where the DMV, they don't want you to go in there. They want you to do everything online so they don't have to see you. And the banks are setting it up the same way, so that we can go completely digital, as Bo said, and we could hide the fact that it's impossible to print physical currency for each dollar that's supposed to be out there. It really is a house of cards. So
it is.
It's really, even if you hate the prospect of gold and silver, just if you absolutely hate it, just get some 5 or 10% of your portfolio minimum and just put it away. You won't be sorry that you did it. And if you decide after a few years that you still hate it and you wish you never had it, you can sell it right back. It's always going to be currency, but I don't know that you'll be able to sell dollars back 5 years from now.
No.
Yeah.
And we've been blessed, I think, for those people who haven't bought as much as they wanted to, or haven't bought at all, because we've had a lot of false starts, and I don't think there's any more false starts left. The next one could be it.
We had a possibility when it jumped up to 26. That was in May. There was a possibility of a jump there. Never jumped, so they controlled it still. But see, what's happening is, I call it like running out of time. And so at some point they run out of time, and it's not their time, because God gave them the time. See, God, if back to the 3.5 years, God allowed, it's in Daniel 12, verse 7, it says, it will be. Okay, so it could be the glory on earth, right? When Jesus Christ was on the earth, his ministry, from when he got baptized to reading Isaiah 61 in the synagogue, it was a 3.5-year ministry. So it, meaning the glory of God, was on the earth for 3.5 years. In this scenario, it's evil. Okay, so evil will be for 3.5 years. And that calculation, and what we talked about earlier, is the end of June. I don't know how this is going to play out, but there was a false start in May. You've got a little window here. Does it go down in June or July? I don't know. All I know is that evil runs out of God's time. See, God gave evil the time. A mortal wound is coming to evil. God is going to strike evil. there's a prophetic word of David Wilkerson, right? It starts in Europe. It kind of seems like, what we talked about last time. There's some hackers out in Europe right now, okay?
Oh, yeah.
But the thing's supposed to apparently start in Europe, and then within 24 to 48 hours, it's going to circulate the globe. And so and I think one of the prophets might have been Julie Green, just talked specifically about how you're going to go to bed one way and wake up another way. So when you wake up, this would be 24 hours as you wake up, everything we know changes. Well, why? Well, how long does God need? 24 hours. Look at the Red Sea miracle, right? Israel went from being destroyed to being potentially killed and no longer on this earth to destroying Pharaoh. And Pharaoh was finished, and there was no one chasing Israel anymore on the other side of the Red Sea. That took 24 hours. So when God intervenes, it's quick, it's 24 hours, it's a very short window of time. Something's about to manifest. And then so the prophetic word is then there's going to be bank runs. So people are going to be running to the bank to try to get their cash out, right? And like Andrew was saying, right, if you got safe deposit boxes, you can do what you want. People can do whatever they want. It's just, that's for them to make their decisions. But my always one question to the people that have safety deposit boxes or things in the bank, which they think are safe, my one question to them is, do you have a key to the front door?
Exactly. You may have a key to the box, but you need a second key and you got to get into the
bank. Wow. Well, Bo, to your point, again, when you were talking about my potential beach day and what can happen, there have been 3 events in the last 15 years. One was the peak of the financial crisis, which was for metals, was around 2011. Then there was March of 2000 when California started the stay-at-home orders, and much of the country followed suit. And then there was when Silicon Valley Bank went down and a couple other banks had to change hands to beat failure. Those 3 events showed us just how quickly the available product can just disappear. And it's not like it's actually here one day and gone the next. It's, as Bo just said, we don't know what to sell it for. When it's moving so fast, and let's say that Pastor Dave calls me up and says, hey, how much for a bag of 90% silver? Or Bo calls me and says, how much for some 100-ounce silver bars? I just have to say, we don't have any right now. Yeah, we always have plenty, and I don't mean to lie to anybody, but the point is that you don't know what to sell it for, so you just tell people I don't have it. And that's what all the other dealers out there do. And then we just start calling each other and trying to find out, what is it selling for? We belong to these message boards that we subscribe to, and on there we'll post, just sold a bag of 90% for $45,000. Or just sold 100-ounce silver bars for $4,000 each. And that's how the price is determined. But it takes time for us to understand what those prices are. And they really do skyrocket in short periods of time during these critical moments. And I wouldn't
talk about spreads. Add in spreads on that, please, Andrew.
Oh, spreads are just outrageous. The most ridiculous one I've heard of in all my years has been since we have all known each other. And that goes back to November and October of last year. Silver spot was $18.50 an ounce. And at that point, a fair price for a 1-ounce silver eagle was $18 per ounce over the spot price. So 1 ounce of silver at that point would cost you $36.50 just for 1 ounce. And in all my years, I've never seen that. When I was a kid in the mid 80s and I worked in the coin shop, and silver was $3 and $4 an ounce. The guy I worked for was one of the most expensive people out there. He charged like a whole $1 per ounce over the spot price. And at that time, a fair price was more like 50 cents over. So
I remember those days.
Yeah. So even $1 over at say $3 an ounce, and he's selling them for $4. He was selling them for $33 an ounce more than what the melt value of silver was at the time. But that dollar didn't go in his pocket. Maybe 50 cents of it did, or maybe 60% or 60 cents of it did. But those are what the spreads are. And the spreads are always changing. It's Bo knows the markets very, very well, but the spreads change so much. You have to have your finger on the pulse of this market and have the contacts to be able to connect with in order to stick with it. For me, it's a full-time job. I spend like the first 30 minutes of every day with a cup of coffee and some silence, going over what all the wholesalers want for the product in order so that I know what to sell it for. And it's not that I'm buying the product after you buy it from me. I'm buying it before you buy it from me. But so when I'm checking the prices, I'm seeing what my replacement value is. Not so we're not a broker. Most of the people out there are brokers.
And add this now. Let's say our scenario happens, it spikes. Silver is now trading at say $70 an ounce. Talk about spreads.
Oh,
please.
At $70 an ounce, you would have to figure that the hype would be so high that the spread would probably be exactly equal to what the spot price of silver is. And depending on what the event is, it could potentially even be more. And if I could have seen a video of me saying what I just said right now 5 years ago, I would say this guy is out of his mind. But what we saw happen at the end of last year with the Silver Eagle is proof that that can happen, and people actually want that stuff. Like they reach out to us all the time and say, I want to buy Silver Eagles. I want a monster box. And I talk them out of it. I switch them into things where you can get more silver for your dollar. And I recommend the 90% silver. And that's not for everybody. Some people need the bars. They need to know exactly how much silver is in each block that they've purchased. But the 90% silver are the old dimes and quarters dated 1964 and before that used to circulate as U.S. currency. They're still a tangible item. They have silver in them. They actually have some copper in them too. So to me, there's great value in that. And one day copper will blast off in value, just as silver has over the past 60 years. And you could have something that really has even more value at that point.
Yeah, I have one right in my hand, 1922. So we have just a couple seconds left. I'll let you guys each take the last closing thoughts.
I'll finish with this. I'm just telling we've done interview over interview after interview, and all we've talked about is it's always a question. Do you hold God's money? It's a question. It's not advice. It's a question you need to ask yourself. Do you believe that God's in charge of this world? Or do you believe God's in control of this world? Because I got to tell you, everything that's happening is biblical, and that which has been will be. Again, there is nothing new under the sun. This is Ecclesiastes. God is not going to be mocked. I'm telling you, God is not going to be mocked. We're at harvest, okay? We're at reaping season. God's going to what these people have sown, they are going to reap. So this fall is going to be a fall like you've never, ever imagined. It's going to be crazy in terms of the exposure and the things that are happening on the news media that are going to be reported. So I'm just telling you, if this interview makes sense to you, you should just ask yourself in your heart, does this make sense? If it does, do I hold, if I'm capable, if I have the means? Because some people don't. It's okay, because God's going to provide it. Mm-hmm. When the glory manifests, everybody's going to have enough. All the church is going to have enough. But in your heart, just know that something biblical is about to manifest. God's in control. The fullness of time is so close. As the end of June manifests, something's coming down the pipeline. And I really hope people have listened to us. God bless, you, Pastor Dave. God bless Andrew. And thank you all for, for listening to us. I appreciate that. Thank you.
For me, we have a lot of moving parts this time around. We really do. So I've been through many different elections in the gold business, and especially when there's one where it's apparent that there's going to be a new president. When there's going to be a shift in the power here in the United States, that's the time leading up to that is when people become very, very scared. And when they're scared, that's when they invest into gold and silver. So there's going to be a big run. And that's not even taking into account the biblical reasons that we've talked about on the same interview, and the introduction of central bank digital currency, and the fact that the BRICS nations now have become so powerful in trying to top the US dollar. And now we've seen even 23 different states in the United States now are adopting gold as currency, where Texas used to be one of the only states that was trying to do that back in the day. So they're seeing value. And just I'll close with this. The banks are telling you, do not wire Andrew and Beverly Hills Precious Metals money for gold and silver. And they're telling you to do that regularly. And that's because they have something to hide. They're scared, and they want to keep the money in that centralized system where they can watch you and control you. So for me, I just say invest in a little bit of freedom, either through me or through one of the other companies out there. And like Pastor Dave and Bo say all the time, don't let anybody pressure you into it. When you're being offered gold and silver, if you start to not feel comfortable, take a step back and pray on it, and come back with a much more clear head, and you can make a better decision for your family that way.
Absolutely.
I want to add one last thing. We are to be in this world and not of this world. We are to be in this world, not of this world. So how do you could care less? If you want to care less about what they do, if you own God's money, you can transact, you can change, you can have any transaction you want, and you're outside the system. Gold and silver are the ultimate money because there is no third party. It's peer-to-peer transaction, and that is clearly, regardless of whatever happens in the future, you can be in the world and not of.
Yeah, perfectly said. All right, well, that wraps up today's Take 5, June the 19th. God bless you, and go in his shalom.
Beverly Hills Precious Metals Exchange is a client-focused firm devoted to assisting our clients with precious metals. Our clients range from first-time to serious coin collectors and investors seeking to add precious metals to their investment portfolios. We are not interested in volatile investments, leveraged products, and intangible assets. With rising inflation and the devaluing of the dollar hurting middle-class families, investing in gold and silver ensures protection for your hard-earned money. Save the value of your money today by investing in gold and silver at Beverly Hills Precious Metals.